the live dedicated to the art of coaching, onto the parts of coaching which are the unseen, the ways of being, the attention you need to give, the way you need to guide your client's attention in certain ways to be able to create incredible things. And today we're going to be exploring how to turn your coaching space into a miraculous space, into a space where the miraculous can occur. And the miraculous is obviously can seem like a big word and can seem a bold claim. And yet when you see the transformations that happen within a human being, the potential within them, it is miraculous. We're talking about they become a different human, not different in the way that they are denying parts of themselves, but different in the way they become more than they ever imagined possible. And it happens regularly and consistently when you apply this beautiful space to the people that we're working with. Ben, hello, welcome. Very, very glad to have you here. This is going to be very, very, very relevant for you indeed. So for those of you who don't know, actually, I am David Saville. I am the creator of Pure Coaching, specifically the 7 elements of Pure Coaching, which is a measured, strategic way of creating a space within which amazing things can occur consistently at will, where you know what to do, how to do it, and it's all contained within the 7 elements and what it takes to make them work. If anyone watching this, if you'd like to find out what the 7 elements are specifically and you want to find out how to use them, I have a 40-minute training that you can get. And if you want it, send me a message and just put in the message pure. So transform your coaching into a miracle space. Arti, hey ho to you too. Hey ho, off to work we go. I don't know why I went to the 7 Dwarfs, but you started it. It's your fault. So this couldn't be more relevant, what we're going to be playing with here and digging into. Earlier today, I was working with a client on this exact thing. It is on how to create, and this is a client of mine, and you both know him actually. And it is he actually helps people to heal, like seriously heal. And he's working with some people with serious illnesses right now. And so creating a space of miracles is damn important, like more evidently important for him than most people, most coaches I work with. But it's no less important for you, actually. Because as I said to him, actually, when it came to this, it is when we fail our clients. And what I mean by fail is when we don't create the kind of space that has them feel safe and supported, and in a way, specifically in a way where they are willing to be challenged, to have a pressure applied in a way that creates potentially radical transformation for them. If we don't do that and we don't give everything we can to that, the rest of their life could be negatively affected because of that, when we could have done better. So it is always life and death. I did a live on this specific thing a few weeks ago. Coaching is life and death, because if someone invests their time, money, attention, care into working with you as a coach, they are expecting some things. Now, in truth, they may not be expecting as much as is possible, because a lot of people don't understand what's possible. A lot of coaches don't understand what's possible. However, they are expecting significant change to happen. That's why they've invested in you and invested so much of themselves in your coaching. If you don't give everything you can to them becoming a different human, like a bigger version of them, if you don't do that, the rest of their life could be negatively affected because of that. You may have failed them in a way that sends them on a trajectory, or even just trajectory that's continuing in the way it already has been, that leads them to a path where their life is one of regret and failure. And a lot of the reasons why I do this, and I know Arti, you too, there are certain things that we've failed at in life, and it's very important to us that the people that we help, and as many people as possible actually, don't fail in the same ways, and they have the opportunities to create a far better life than they could do without having our support. And so our attention on the coaching space, it should be our highest priority as a coach. The space that we create that has this person feel safe, supported, cared for, which means we get to be extremely direct. We get to say things in a way that no one else can say, where it can be received, because that's the key. It's creating a space where they can actually receive the direct support and challenges that we are able to give them, that enables them to grow and become more as a human, and then affect everyone in their life as a direct result of that. That is what, or at least part of what this space can be. And the miraculous can occur regularly when we do this. Oh, yes. See, that's what coaching should be. It should have our clients think that. That's what they should be thinking. And then when they're working with us, in the way their lives change, in the lasting effects of what happens to them in their life as a direct result of spending time with us. That is the kind of level of wow that we get to give. And every time we connect with a client, every opportunity to serve them is an opportunity to create that kind of radical transformation. Sometimes it's a small seed that grows. Sometimes it's just in the moment, you see it happening. You can see it like a pattern break right in front of you. You see them like they break out of a shell right in front of you. It happens regularly. And whether it happens right in front of you or happens because afterwards, because of what you did, either way, we are talking significant, profound evolution in their life, radical evolution in their life. Now, when it comes to this, so what is it that turns a coaching space, which, let's be honest, most coaches, they're talking about average things. They'll use traditional language, like more confidence. I'm finding it difficult to come up with the ordinary language, to be honest, because I'm not used to thinking in these terms. I probably should have done some research on the ordinary language people use. But essentially, the expectation of what can happen in a session is kept low, because how many coaches are actually confident that a miracle could happen within this time together? If we're going to spend 2 hours, an hour, 30 minutes, 10 minutes, how many coaches are certain that a miracle is possible? Can't guarantee it will happen, but how many know that? What's the artist said? More self-love. Yes, more self-love. Yeah. The thing is, right, the key's in the title, but you don't need a coach for that, right? Just go. My mind goes to dirty places when you do it straight away. There's many ways to have self-love, and you don't need a coach for that unless you've got a problem. But the point is that so much can happen. So one of the most important things we can do, and it can be a huge shift just for the coach, is to enter into every single session, time with a client, or anybody, actually, not just a client, anybody you're coaching, with the intention that something miraculous can occur. Like you have to go there first, because it's not going to happen by accident. It can, but it's unlikely to, and you can't repeat it if it's just by accident, right? It's if you go there first, so you enter with the intention of something miraculous occurring, well, then that requires you to be in a bigger place yourself. That requires a certain state within yourself, a miracle state, you could call it, for the sake of this. Somewhere where you are willing to hold this space where something miraculous can occur. Because, of course, for you to be willing for that to happen means you have to stand behind your own abilities as a coach, your ability to hold that kind of powerful space with a client. And that's challenging. That can push against coaches' identity of who they are and what they've created so far with their clients. They may not have the evidence yet. So the switch from a coach who's just trying something out to someone who's willing to hold that miracle space all by itself is a huge one, but one that I recommend, wherever you are in your coaching experience, that you bring to your very next session. In fact, I recommend, as came up in a coach training last week, that you create a practice before your next session and every session that has you connect to the potential of what could happen, the potential of extraordinary. Here's another, more self-worth. Yay, more self-worth. Isn't that great? What an aspirational thing, eh? To have more self-worth. I mean, of course, if someone is lacking self-worth, it doesn't diminish from that person, a valid desire, for them to want to have it. But the reality is there's always a lot more going on than that anyway. If you actually, as you know, Arti, when you're coaching someone and we take them into a moment of experience when they have not experienced self-worth or a lack of self-love, and we go into the moment, we can find out what's really going on. And it is usually very different than what they think it is. It's usually nothing to do with self-worth, or at least not the most important part. It's nothing to do with self-love. The mechanism that created the problem that they're experiencing is often very, very different, because people don't understand what's going on within themselves. All they do is experience something, absorb information from outside of themselves, and their brain does the best job it can to match those two things. And our job as a coach is to not believe what our clients think is the problem. Our job is to actually explore what's really going on, connect them to the real truth of what's occurring, and then to have a space within which they can honestly connect to the truth of whatever it is, so they can expand and become more within it. It's a beautiful experience, but it's very challenging to do if you're not willing to step into this space of miracles. So actually, while you're watching this, and also whether you're watching this on the replay too, you don't get away from participating, at least being challenged by me, because I'm looking at you right now, right? I can see you watching this. I know you're here, in which case you can be challenged here. If you're honest about the last 3 sessions that you had with a client, what intentions did you, is that a good question? What intentions? No. Did you go into the session, into that time together, with the potential for something life-changing to truly occur? Like, did you embody it within your soul? I almost swore, trying to moderate my swearing a little bit. Did you do that? Did you, as soon as you turned on your camera, or if it happened to be in-person work, did you create that powerful space so that the person could feel it immediately? There's something deep that happens within you when you do this. For your last 3 sessions, did you do it? And if not, why not? Arti, what's this? I completely agree with what you're sharing here today. It's about loving honesty, which some people think of as being brutally honest. It's true. When people aren't used to it, and of course, some people do use it brutally, don't they? A lot of the time in everyday life, the people who are the ones who are the most honest, I almost use inverted commas with my fingers, but I don't like doing that. So I imagine the inverted commas, tend to do it in a brutal, selfish way. And so when we do it, we may say exactly the same things, but we are doing it from a loving, caring space of support. It's like, hey, I'm here for you. The only reason I'm here is to help you. So can we explore this, and whatever that may be? In fact, I had this with someone a couple of weeks ago. She's not a client, but she's someone that I was helping out, and like a coach who I was coaching, just to help her out. And at the beginning, because I sent her my 7 elements of pure coach training, right? So she's seen it and she'd been trying to use it herself. And so when we began the session, the time together, she'd said some things, and I used some mirror language to open her up to try and connect to something deeper. And she didn't respond. She used one-word answers. And so I just sat in silence and waited in silence took 2 minutes, maybe 3. And then I'm like, what's happening right now? And she bursted out laughing, because what was happening was she's like, you're coaching me right now. I can see, yeah, she's trying to figure out what I'm doing as coaching, right? Because she knows what the 7 elements are. So she's like creating some resistance, like almost like trying to fight me. And I'm like, you do realize the only reason we're speaking is because I'm here to help you, right? So yeah, I leaned in and I said it like that and like smiled at her, and she was just laughing at herself at the fact that, of course, the only reason we're speaking, and the only reason really we're ever speaking to someone as a coach who cares about the clients and what happens, not just clients, to other people. The only reason we're speaking to these people when we're being of service is to be of service. So, it was quite amusing when she realized that her resistance was there. And then after that, it became very easy to coach her, actually, because she connected to the fact that I care, I'm here to help her. And of course, I'm going to use pure coaching because it works really, really well when you don't try and fight it and you just, you step into the experience. And then we got to an amazingly beautiful, deep place, like one that she didn't want to go, but was willing to. And it was deeply transformative, which is really beautiful. I don't know how lastingly transformative yet. I'm going to find out. But the potential was right there. The seed was planted because of that. So yeah, that was something that happens, the resistance to what's going on. I was reminded of an occasion with a past client today where she felt the guys that she liked were not accessible. Arti is a fearless dating coach. So she helps people to, amongst other things, because she helps people live fearless lives too, but to help people to date fearlessly, right? So they can date whoever they want and in every way they want, being a fullest expression of who they are. It's very cool. I had to tell her at that moment that she was not inaccessible. It was hard to say, but it shifted so much for her instantly. Actually, me narrating messed up my understanding of what you just said. I was reminded of an occasion with a past client today where she felt the guys she liked were not accessible. Got ya. I had to tell her at the moment that she was the one that's not accessible. It was hard to say, but it shifted so much for her instantly. She shared more deeply in that session than ever before. Yeah, I realized that you'd messed up the inaccessible, accessible thing. But it's why it messed with my mind. So thanks for testing me there. I had to readjust it on the fly. So yes, so the thing your client was seeing in others was actually what she was portraying within herself. Very common, very, very common in coaching. In fact, it happened earlier today, actually. One of the things that we were exploring with one of his clients was that she wasn't being understood by people. And yet when he attempted to take this person to a place of understanding someone else, she refused. She wasn't willing to go there. And so it's like, you're not willing to understand someone else's point of view. How can you possibly expect them to understand you or even want to? Because you're coming from that place of you are the one that's right, so that's very common. Robin, hello there, lovely Robin. How does one sign up for a phone call with you? Tends to be through message is what that is. So I'm aware you and I are overdue a call, so we can set that up. I know you've messaged me actually earlier today, so I haven't had a chance to look at the message yet, but I will check it later and we can arrange something. In fact, Robin and I have had, because of the nature of the time difference between us, have had challenges being available at the same time of day. So let's hope that can be rectified real soon, because I'd love to speak to you. That threw me off completely, so thanks for that. Where was I? So yes, so obviously the miracle space itself, of course, the space where anything can happen, where miracles can occur. We have to first go there. So that's the beginning. We have to be it and create a practice that has you step into that. It can be hard if you've not done it before. If you've just gone into coaching for something better to happen, just average coaching or something good to occur, to step into a place of the miraculous can be really challenging, confronting for you. But I strongly recommend you try it. And the great thing is, You don't have to pretend anything or fake anything or force anything. What you can do to get you going, and in fact, I recommend you do this anyway later, is you invite the person you're coaching in. You have that person step into the space of potentially miraculous. They don't have to believe it. They just need to be willing for it to put the potential to exist. That's all that's needed. So to bring the client into the potential that something miraculous can occur. And then what can really help with that is just to ask them what that would be, right? Why make it hard for yourself? So if something miraculous were to occur, what would that be? Like, if something could change here within this moment together, and you were never the same because of what we do here? What would be different? What would you change? And see what emerges. Often they'll tell you, and by the place of telling you, they in some way have to connect to the possibility within them, especially if you're holding this space well, not just asking their head, you're actually asking their being, they're the person that they are, their complete self. They have to go there. And so by even just asking that question, even for just a moment, the possibility may expand within them a little bit. And that can be all that's needed. The potential is all that's needed for you to have a much stronger, more powerful and effective experience together. It's phenomenal. So first one is you step into the space of miraculous. You may need to prepare beforehand, right? To step into it, to take some time to imagine the potential for what could occur. It really helps when you know the person, because the person you're about to coach, you could think what could be miraculous for this person, and then you get to step into the specifics of that. It's much easier when you know the person well. So that's the first one. Step into it yourself. Second one, invite the person into that space. Now, of course, agreements are a great place for that. And as a coach, I strongly recommend you use agreements and use them frequently. So you are bringing people into this moment for something amazing to occur here and now. And within those agreements, it's very important that you do not take their yes for being true, because a lot of the time people will answer you very quickly without really connecting to the meaning of what you asked them. And if you must, my guess is you would have experienced this with people where you've made agreements with them and they've said yes at the time, but then later on, they're not behaving in the way that you said. There are things happening that are different to the agreement, right? It's like the agreement didn't happen. And you know why it's like the agreement didn't happen? It's because it didn't. It didn't really happen. It was fake. So, and this is a common problem for many coaches. You are creating fake agreements with people, going through the motions of agreements, but you're not really paying attention to the response, and you're not challenging or coaching the response. And if you're doing that, you are missing so much. So much happens within the way someone says yes. Do you feel it within your soul? Can you feel it like echoing through you when they respond or not? And it's not about the loudness of it either, because some people can be very good at saying yes, especially if they've been to lots of Tony Robbins events or other things, right? It's not about any of that. It's about whether you believe them. Do you feel that it was a deep yes within themselves? Because if it isn't, it's unlikely to mean anything. You're likely to cause problems and to have these problems recur later on. Very important. Ben says, check you out. Because you didn't coach around the agreement. Nice. There's a slight delay on comments. So obviously I gave the game away, didn't I? Very good though, Ben. I love that you're here and that you're actually engaging and actually challenging yourself here. Awesome. That means you get better, right? By being here. That's what I want for this. And Robin, because they hadn't connected with it themselves. That's right. I mean, it's, clients tend to be people with full lives. Even with Corona and COVID, right? People fill their lives up, and their lives are busy and full in whichever ways they are, with lots of things demanding their attention. Sometimes the only space they have is with you. Maybe the only space, maybe in their entire life they've ever had. maybe since they're a baby or ever, actually, for some people, is with you here and now. And so expecting someone to arrive on a call connected to what they want, to what they could, what the potential for what could occur, and all of that is just not, it's just not going to happen for most people. It's very rare that someone can step into that by themselves. That's one part of our role, is to help someone connect deeply to themselves. And one way of doing that is through those agreements. Yeah, exactly, Robin. Spot on. And of course, connecting with yourself is very important. And you've done that. We've done it together, right? In some beautiful ways. Connect with yourself, connect with each other, right? It makes everything better. And in a coaching dynamic, particularly, although it's like for friendship basis, as we've got, it happens in those spaces. But also when it comes to the coach-client relationship, it's damn important. The space we're inviting someone in is something rare and something very unique. And we've got to honor that. And we have to honor it. We have to, I think we should, every time that we meet with someone. So that's, if we want to do that as well, then for us, of course, if we know that any time that we're coaching, we are creating a potential for miracles to happen, well, then it becomes natural, really, for us, and we expect it. And so in the beginning, it can feel hard and feel like you can be uncertain about it. But the more you do this, the more you see the miraculous occur. And it just becomes you gather evidence based on experience that just fulfills and makes that space more powerful, as time goes on. So yeah, damn important. So the next part of this is leaking power, because the truth is, it's likely you leak power within your interactions with your clients and others. And whatever powerful space that you've been able to create in moments, that you've messed it up in that way. So be a great opportunity actually for some examples. Like, what are some ways that you have leaked power in your coaching recently? And while you're answering that, and remember, if you're watching this on the replay, I'm talking to you too. Be honest, be brave, take a risk. The more you engage, the more you get to change and grow within yourself. It's actually the difference between learning and growing. Learning is like you might be listening passively and like maybe making some notes and going, okay, you're great, this is interesting. Growing, though, would be to post something, as Robin and Ben have been here, and Arti, interacting, risking, taking a risk, really, of maybe getting it wrong, of having your ideas challenged, of saying something wrong, like Arti when she messed up accessible and inaccessible, which made it very hard for me to read. I even understand the message, right? It's like you get to grow through it by participating. So I invite you to participate, Robin's joined in. What have you said? When we help people tap into what's possible, we also have the responsibility to help them embody that vision, because they often only believe mentally it's possible through us, through the mirror we hold up. What do you mean by that, actually, to help them embody the vision? Yeah, what do you mean? Because I think it's very important for us not to have our clients attached to it happening through us. That's very, very important. So what do you mean by that? Like, how do you do that with your clients, actually? How do you help them embody the vision? Because I think that's very important, actually. And Arti says, I just wrote about this yesterday, as I've experienced with myself and clients staying in relationships that are not right for us, and not proactively changing that has us leak power massively. Yep. And as coaches, actually, just we really can't be doing that. Not obviously we can't. Not every relationship we can choose to change or to evolve beyond. There are some relationships in our life that we can't do that. However, when it comes to romance, when it comes to our close friendship circles, even family, really, and the people we allow really close, where we get to be vulnerable with, to have something be wrong within that dynamic, and to stay there knowing it's wrong by not speaking up, by not having an honest conversation, or whatever it is that we know inside that we need to do. If we don't do that, my God, is that going to weaken you as a coach? If you can't even do it in your personal life, how can you possibly do that with clients? So yeah, that's very important as a coach, actually, to what would you call that, really? To attend to your own life in the way that you want your clients to attend to theirs. I think that's very, very important. That comes to alignment, integrity. Yeah, that's damn important, actually. So it's a good one, for all coaches, really. Like even friendships, if something's not right, I mean, try and make it better if you can, of course. Sometimes the relationships can need to be opened up and explored and deepened. Sometimes that won't work, and you need to change the relationship in some way so that you can have integrity with it again. So yeah, so because of that, if you're every time you're not being honest about something that inside you feel you want to say to someone, but you don't, you're not just leaking power. You've opened up the faucet and it's just pouring out of you. It weakens your soul. And Arti says it's not the thing, but our relationship to the thing. In the case of relationships, we can't change or leave. Yeah, very much so. In fact, as I can't remember if you and I spoke about this recently, but I've spoken about this where it's a regular thing that comes up, actually. It's very bad advice to get someone to leave a relationship that isn't working without first trying to grow, without growing within it, if possible. As long as there's no immediate danger of any kind, like to leave without growing first to a person who doesn't need to leave, and there's no escape required, right? No urgency. That is terrible advice. You get all that person's likely to do is carry all those patterns that created the relationship with them to create another relationship similar to it. And you'll see this with people, clients and friends and others. And we've probably done it ourselves in our lives, right? Is repeating similar cycles because if we haven't grown, if our clients haven't grown within them first, we're doomed to repeat. What is that thing? If you haven't learned from history, you're doomed to repeat it. You see it play out in people's lives regularly because they are making the relationship and the other person the problem rather than taking responsibility, growing within it to a point when there's no urgency anymore, and they can have a real evaluation and clarity over what needs to happen, really. A lot of the time, a lot of relationships that ended may have been able to become better. That's the truth of it. Friendships, this is very common with, actually. Many friendships were ended when actually they could have been adjusted, they could have been altered, they could have been deepened. Who knows? People just didn't bother to try. And so as coaches, it's up to us to be that first, of course, just like we need to be the miracle space first, right? And be the invitation. And then to have our clients be able to step into that world too. Yeah, very important. Arti, I addressed that with a client last week who wanted to leave the Fearless Life Challenge due to trolling. I challenged her to stay and grow through the challenge. She's chosen to stay. Very cool. Very, very cool. So Arti is doing this 5-day challenge on how to live a fearless life. So it's embracing the things in life that are uncomfortable, as well as the things that are adventurous, and all of this, right, within a 5-day challenge to step into a more fearless experience of life. And so, great example there. So, someone trolling. It's interesting, the word trolling, isn't it? Why that's big? What qualifies as trolling? Where does it go from someone being a bit of an arsehole to trolling, right? When does it shift? Or someone being, I was almost going to say something stronger, but I am trying not to swear, as I'm trying to upgrade my language and use more vocabulary. So someone being extremely judgmental, critical, pejorative to someone, right? Pejorative, is that even the right use of the word? I don't think it is. So that's the problem with trying to use different language. Sometimes the wrong word comes to mind. Essentially, just having a go at someone to the point where where they might be deliberately trying to cause pain. Where does it go into, like, this person gets a label of troll? Where does that happen? I mean, for me, I would think it would be when it's a serial person who just goes around doing this to different people, or does it to the same person continuously over a long period of time. But yeah, when does that happen? Oh, the trolling wasn't happening in the Fearless Life Challenge, by the way. It's a beautiful, safe space. That's funny. I think it'd be funnier if it was inside the space, that you're just cultivating a space where people could just be real dicks to each other, be really horrible to each other. Yeah, just say whatever you want, be as mean as you want. There is value in that, actually. There is value in that. But of course, that's not necessarily the space that you are creating. That's not the loving, caring, supportive space that we want to create most of the time. Though there are times when that might be useful. But yeah, it's like when our clients are reacting to something, it's like, wow, there's a beautiful opportunity to grow within that. If you can grow within it first, expand within it, so that thing that you felt so terrible can suddenly either feel like doesn't matter or can feel great. In fact, Ben has a great phrase for this, which is, I don't know what his PG version is, but I know the X-rated version is turning fuck yous into thank yous. So he's had messages from people as he started his business coaching career only like 4 or 5 months ago. He's been messaging people and just reaching out and trying to connect and trying to grow his network and potentially get clients, right? So he's had some people react badly to that. And so to him, it felt like, people have been quite horrible sometimes. So it feels like a fuck you, which sometimes it is. But of course, there's value in it, right? Because his reaction is a weakness, really. To actually have someone write words in a box and hit send, and you to read these words from this person you've never met, and to like have a strong emotional response to that, it's a weakness in us if we've got that. And so actually there's a lot of value in that, and often there'll be some truth within it, as Ben found out. Like, he's found out that actually if he takes away his emotional response from it, what I mean by take away is don't suppress your emotional response. Feel it, but don't feel it and express through it. Like, feel it fully, and then with clarity, evaluate the validity of what the person said beyond the emotional response. There's often a lot of value in it, and there was truth to what the person had said. The person could have said it better, but there was value in it, and so he turned it into a thank you, and he's been able to do that sometimes in the moment, which has been really cool. So that's quite an important skill set to have, and that's what the part of what our safe space that we create for our clients, whether it's one-on-one, whether that's a group, whether that's even a Facebook group, as Arti said, we can still create a version of it. Not going to be as powerful, of course. It's unlikely to be a miracle space when it's on Facebook, but it can still be that safe harbor where they can feel supported and cared for, where they can grow through these things. It's incredibly beautiful. And we get to, what I found and what I've noticed in Arti and other clients, and Ben as well, actually, is that when you step into this space and you embody it and you are it wherever you are, that space is with you. So people feel it, even people you just meet on the street, people, wherever you go, as long as you are not triggered yourself or feeling vulnerable yourself in a way that you're not able to activate it. But if you're able to embody it, you get to bring this to life and to so many people. And it's an incredible gift. And of course, if you want to be able to do this within your coaching, do this within your life with as many people as you can. In fact, a challenge which we've given to Arti and a couple of others actually recently is to pay close attention to the people in your life, and where have you been judging and critical of the people in your life and not holding that beautiful space for them? Where has that been? For me at the time, it was with my mum sometimes, wanting her to do things to make her for her health that I think are the right thing. And instead of actually holding that caring space and having her connect to what she wants to do and loving her with her own choices and having her empowered, sometimes my own fears would get in the way, and I would force my will onto her, really, which is not okay. It's not okay to do that. And with one of my family members, I was doing this too. So for me, it's like those are the spaces I need to bring it to. And since I've been doing that, those relationships are improving beautifully. to do that, and they feel safer and more able to make better choices themselves if they choose to. Wow, I've got an epic here from Robin. Okay, I'm guessing going to need to sip some water before I read this one. By the way, thank you for your comments. It's just, I love interacting so much. It's one of the things I miss about live interactions. I mean, I'd already moved my business online like a few years ago, so I had that. So I'd gradually less and less in-person work, but there's something about being in front of an audience, having 20, 30, 40, 100 people in a room and being able to look into their eyes, being able to create an experience. Because whenever I'm doing a talk, I actually coach the room. I don't really talk. I don't like to do a talk. I coach the room. And what I mean by that is I create experiences where they get to pair up or go into groups and explore important topics, things that challenge them. And I create that space for the room. And I love that so much, but I get to see them. I get to, they share what's working, what isn't working. And it becomes an amazing group dynamic where the majority of the room have an experience that can change them in some way. I really love it, actually. And so one of the things that's harder to do is on video, like this kind of thing. It's harder to encourage that kind of thing. When you're just there and you might be busy, you're just doing it on your phone, it doesn't have the same experience, right? I can't look in your eyes in the same way because you could be looking anywhere. I can't tell. So it's just really wonderful. So thank you for interacting. It makes it so much better for me and for everyone else involved. And of course for you too, because you get to grow rather than just learn. So awesome. Thank you. Robin, what I have seen is that during conversations, some people get almost high on the feeling of what's possible. Yes. That's very common, actually. Like connecting to the fantasy, right? Yeah, connecting to the fantasy can be very compelling in the moment of connecting to it. They get excited and they can believe something new is true. But outside of the conversation, when they're back in their own world, away from our conversation, they aren't able to connect with what they believe to be true during the conversation. So they don't uphold the agreement we may have made during the conversation, right? I've tried different things to help their embodiment. Guided meditation helps a lot, but honestly, I haven't found something that works across the board. I just feel like I must always be creative and attentive because there is a need for embodiment that must occur before they live into what's possible, into an agreement. This feels too long for a chat box. Can't wait for a phone chat. Yeah, I very much look forward to speaking to you too. We have much to say. It's been way too long. I agree. So with that, that's a big red flag actually for coaches, and it's very common. It is getting excited within sessions about what can happen, being buzzing, and the coach can feel wonderful because the person seems so different. Their state at the beginning of the call compared to at the end, it's like, this is a different person. Look, I'm looking at right now. Look at what's possible, and you can do this, and it's so easy to talk to them about what's possible. And even when you talk about the obstacles, they don't seem like problems right now because they're connected to the fantasy. But when you're connected to the fantasy, it's so big, these obstacles seem so insignificant. It's like, oh, of course I'll do that. And you make an agreement, which might be to go and have a difficult conversation, say, whatever that may be. And so it's like, great. And as far as the coach is concerned, it's done. Okay. Next week, I can't wait to see where we go next. And then the next time, or wherever you next have the conversation, you're like, so what happened? And there's a certain reticence, and well, this happened, and this happened, this got in my way, and there'll be excuses essentially for why they didn't do the thing that they said they were going to, because they lost the excitement, because excitement wanes. And so there is an art to that, actually. Like you said, there's not a one size fits all. I don't like catchphrases, so I do try and upgrade them. So there's not one thing you'll do for one person. But there are certain things that make it more likely. So actually, okay, so this is what I've found to be quite useful. And that is to knock the excitement out of them, is what I found to be quite useful indeed, is to connect them to the challenge, to the hardship, to the pain, and also connect them to the real moments of what they need to do, what the problems may occur. Again, this is only one. There's loads of potential options actually that I have incorporated that have worked in different ways, but this is one which is one to bring in if you haven't been bringing it in. It is really connecting to the hell that they need to go through to be able to connect to that, for that fantasy to become true. Because it's very easy to connect to what feels good. Much harder, people resist what feels bad. So I take them to the what feels bad place. As Arti and Ben, who's here, you will know too well, particularly Arti, of course, who's had this many times over the years. And that is, I take you to the darkest place, and I stay there with you, and we connect to whatever you're scared of. We connect to the pain of it, and we connect to the work involved, and we connect to the meaning of it all. You know, it's like, what's the point of it all? What does it mean to you? Why are you going to do this thing that is likely to feel hellish? Why would you bother? And connecting to those places. And so what I find is connecting to the mixture of fantasy and like pain, and having both those things together. Although if I'm honest, more pain than fantasy. Like the willingness to go through pain is far more important actually than even knowing what the fantasy is. That's what I've found. In fact, when I look back at many of the clients I've worked with, and we're talking many hundreds, where it has worked best is the ones who have been deeply willing to go through the pain, and they understand it, they acknowledge it, and they work through it. Yeah, I'd say that's definitely been a very important thing. Those who are willing and have to keep creating the willingness sometimes, or connecting to the willingness over the time that we're working together. Those are the ones who'll create extraordinary. Those are the ones whose life are likely to be, you know, you're likely to create regular miracles with those kind of people, you know. But as for each individual and how you do that, of course, it will vary person to person. Definitely, there's definitely an art to it. So Arati says, I was going to say, we practice that in every coaching session together, don't we? That would be the connecting you to the pain. Yes. Do you know, I realized many times I had failed my clients actually by having sessions, or I try to, just as a side note, as you'll notice if you pay attention, I adjust session to time together or experience. I try to move away from using the language of session because it removes the potential for what could happen. You know, within a session, you know, it relates to time. It relates to like massage therapy, or, you know, whatever else you can get there, you can have sessions for. And so as much as possible, I like to use other language to describe the experience of coaching, because that's the miraculous can occur in a session. It just doesn't feel as miraculous to me, and to most people don't expect it to be. So just as a side note there. But what I realized was I'd failed my clients by letting them feel way too good for way too long, like session after session after session. There doesn't always have to be a hellish session, of course. Definitely not, by the way. We have a lot of fun. We play. I like to take the mickey out of my clients regularly, as you will attest to, I'm sure. And have you take the mickey out of me too, of course, because it's, you know, it's fun and it's awesome. So we have fun together. We adventure together in coaching. And it's very important that I connect to the deep, hellish potential pain of what life is, and what the potential for you is, and what the obstacles really are. Otherwise, you're likely to keep stopping yourself before you get there, because if you haven't prepared for the pain and you haven't truly said yes in deep within yourself, when it happens, your patterns, your subconscious patterns of avoidance are likely to kick in. And so that's why, like, I want to bring you into this. I want you here with me in this moment. And that's why when my coaching, one of the reasons why I tend to coach coaches more than anybody else, because you tend to have gone for a certain level of development, which means I can be unleashed in these ways, because a lot of people, when they're fragile, they're not able to connect to as much. There's still a level of discomfort they can connect to, but not to the level that I like to work with, which is the strongest possible, because I like radical, fast transformations. So the majority of my work is there because of that. And with people who've done a lot of personal development, because they tend to reach a point where they're like, well, what, is there more? And I'm like, yeah, there's a lot more. So that's why I like to do that, and just reserve a small space within my coaching for those people who are more vulnerable, where I take a gentler approach. So I tend not to do that as much, because it's just not, I can't use the resources within myself when people are in that place. So I like to just do that in a small way. And then the majority is people who are ready to a certain point to be challenged. Of course, they become readier the more we work together, and more capable, and they grow and expand in ways that they couldn't imagine, of course. But they have to begin with a readiness there, and that's what we test out, before we start. So that's very important as well. Like, make sure you're measuring, measuring, is that right? Or just connecting to the place your client's in. So you are challenging them to the place that they can actually, that is a challenge, and it can be a tough challenge for them, but one they can overcome. There's no point taking to a place that is going to be like a brick wall to them. All they're going to do is feel terrible if they do that. But there's obviously an art and a science to that too, actually. It takes care and attention and a certain level of understanding of human nature as well. Where are we? Here we go. I'm working on a PG version at the moment, actually. Yeah, I noticed that in a video you did yesterday, you were adjusting it. It's not as the turning a fuck you into a thank you. It's just, there's a power to it, and there's a simplicity to it. So but it is worthwhile creating a PG version, because of course it can be exposed to far more people. So it is worthwhile. You don't want to lose the energy of it though as well. So make sure you maintain the energy of it, because it's strong. Robin says, connect them to the hell they need to walk through. Well said, and very true. Yes, it is. I'm going to put that up, actually, because I haven't been putting up comments. But I think that's good for anyone watching this later on the replay as well, right? Let's connect them to the hell that they need to walk through. Damn right. Yeah, it's very important. You're going to get burned. So what are you going to do when you get burned? How are you going to keep moving forwards? When you put your hand in the fire, how are you going to get through that? There's a strategy that's needed. And the strategy isn't from here, though. It's like an emotional strategy of how to deal with that. But anyway, that's a whole different life. So I won't go too much into that now. Robin says, deeply willing to walk through the pain. This is gold. I love working with people through Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey framework. It helps a lot with understanding what it takes to actually walk through a threshold moment. Oh, beautiful. I mean, I don't know a lot about the Joseph Campbell stuff, apart from one of my old coaches, John, was a big fan of his. So I probably would have taken, when he coached me years ago, I would have taken on some of that, is my guess. But yeah, for me, that's what we're doing with our clients, is we are turning them into heroes in their own lives. Yeah, I was always going to say heroes and heroines, but there's no real need to have a gender-based version, right? You can be heroes too, right, as women. So heroes, be heroes in their lives, and that there's like a call for that, right? Like, who doesn't want to be a hero in their life, whatever that means to them? It's not like some cheesy thing on TV, but we're like, would you want to be the person that your friends and family can count on? Do you want to be someone who has a dream and goes for it, and maybe you'll achieve it, maybe not, but you're going to give everything to it? Who wants to live a life that is the greatest expression of your soul, and get to the end of your life like celebrating the extraordinary life that you've had? I mean, I would say that any of us watching this, definitely, and any of our clients who are drawn to us and our work, as long as we're communicating this clearly, they're going to be inspired by that. Now, if you look at any hero's journey, there's pain in it. It's intrinsic within the journey, is meeting these demons, right? They're battling these monsters. I like dragons, so we're not battling dragons. We're flying on dragons' backs, right? But you've got to learn how to fly. You've seen Avatar, right? How dangerous is that? We've got to learn. So there are things that we need to get resources on our way, and that's often what we're doing as coaches, right? We are helping our clients to develop resources within themselves that have them meet the challenges that life has for them, and has them step into these amazing spaces that are heroic in those deep moments. You know, when they're looking into the eyes of someone they love and that person's in pain, but they're holding there with that person. They're not turning away. They're not trying to make the person feel better. They are able to be here for that person. That's heroic to be able to do that. So many people are not capable of doing that. And I never used to be. You know, it took work to be able to be. So there's so many heroic moments that our clients get to experience as a result of working with us. So that's important too, right? When we're connecting to this miracle space, it's like what the potential is for this individual. What is their version of being a hero, and what does that look like? And what are all the challenges and experiences they get to have? Yeah, and then of course, when you walk through hell, but you know why you're doing it, it makes it worthwhile. You know. Okay, I'm way close to an hour now, so I'm going to wrap this up, but I do want to connect a couple more comments before I do. When I've used the word miraculous in a coaching agreement with you previously, David, you mentioned that the word hasn't resonated with you. Are you using it in a different way here? Yeah, I don't necessarily use the word miraculous with clients. It's one of those things when it's not about the word, right? It's about your embodiment of the word. It's about what it means to you and what it means to the person in front of you. So whatever word you use doesn't really matter. And it may have just been in that moment when you shared it, the way you shared it was the problem for me personally in that moment, right? Maybe it was me in that moment, just not able to connect to it. So it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't really matter what I think of words that you use. What matters is, what do you? And not just what do you think about it, what do you feel about it? What has you come alive? So if you speak the word miracle and you come alive, well, that's all that matters. You know, I remember years ago when I started working with my old coach, John, actually, when he stepped into what it meant to do some real deep work. If one of the things which actually is part of the prosperous coach world, right? So it wasn't just John. John was my coach, but I was also dabbling in the prosperous coach world and connecting all those coaches there. So regularly what I'd see is like, we've got to have a powerful conversation. And I started doing that, right? It was like, okay, I need to start having a powerful conversation. And I'd invite people into powerful conversations. And that was the buzzword. And it felt hard to do and challenging in lots of ways. And sometimes it worked well, sometimes it didn't. But I had to find my own language for it in the end. And it evolves and changes all the way. I'll be honest with you, I don't care about the words that we use. I care about our relationship to the words that we use, because it's always about that anyway. So if miracle feels good to you, use it. If fairy tale land feels good to you, use it. I don't know what, that was a stupid example, but you know what I mean? I don't really, it doesn't matter. What matters is that you come alive and you invite someone to come alive with you in that space. Because if you do that, miracles can happen. So cool. Okay. I'm going to leave that here. I think that's a good enough place to end this. So thank you for being here. I've loved it. My throat is dry from talking so much, but thank you for so much for being part of this. I've loved it. And there's so much goodness in this. I know there is. And you've helped to make this a great one and a great experience for everyone who was here. So thank you. Thank you for being here. If you're on the replay, thank you for being here and watching to the end. Few people do. So thank you if you did. And if you want to learn how to create your own miracle spaces at will, the space where your clients just change so deeply, they become bigger, better versions of themselves almost every single session. If that interests you, you want to learn how to do that. I have my 7 elements of pure training pure coaching training. There we go. That's happening in the start of next year. If you're interested in finding out more, you can send me a message and just put pure coach training, and we can have a conversation about what it is, whether it could be of service to you, and what could happen as a direct result of being part of that. It's going to be fucking cool though. So yeah, if you want to get better at coaching, send me a message. And Robin says, fairy tale land is so sweet. Exactly, it's sweet. So it may have relevance in some ways. Maybe I'll try it in my next session, see if it lands with me and with my next client. Thank you for being here. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Arti. Thank you, Ben, and everybody else who was watching but didn't actually participate live. Thank you all. And I'll be here again next week, as I am almost every week. I had a week off last week, but I'm gonna have a week off every sort of 6 weeks or so. So thank you for being here, and I will see you next week. I'll probably continue this conversation in some way, because there's still way more to be explored as to how to do this artfully and deeply and consistently. So thank you.